Are you convinced? Are you inspired by the fact that they're making these changes? Do you think it's going to happen? Speaking it will happen.
All right. Am I convinced it's going to happen? I think I am more convinced now that we have this sort of the focus across those Ds, if you like. I think until now, it's often been the case that we get obsessed by maybe one of those sorts of things. It's the combination for me of the technology that comes through the digital piece, but then the public interest that flows through the decarbonisation side of things. And then I think also that disconnection piece, which is obviously the response to the fact we still want to move and be connected and so on. Those three are a pretty neat triangle because you've kind of got the push and you've got the pull and you've got the outcome kind of in sight. So I'd say I'm more convinced now than I would have been in the past. Yes.
Well, Andy, Benny, you got the microphone. I mean, do you think, we talked about the fact that there are technical solutions, but there's also a social challenge. There's some social change that's got to go on. What for you presumably for you, it is the social aspect is the trickiest thing.
I think it is, although I do see a lot of social change at the moment in terms of people looking for new solutions. People aren't looking for the ownership solutions they had historically. But we have to make it convenient and accessible for people. People will only migrate away from private motor ownership and, more importantly, single occupancy journeys in private motor vehicles when more convenient and reliable choices are there for people. We have to provide those to enable people to adapt and adopt.
Mm-hmm. Andy?
Absolutely. I think it does go two ways, though. Not only do we have to make it more compelling, but there are also some sticks we need to play. So the reason that private car ownership in London is so low is that, yes, there's a lot of really good public transport system, but it's also pretty inconvenient to drive a car in London. Just picking up one of the Slido questions, there's a question about should we be subsidising charging points in city centres where we're trying to discourage cars? Personally, since the minister's gone and he part funds me, I think no, we should be subsidising charging points at park and ride sites and putting on electric buses to take you into the city centre and really discouraging the use of private vehicles in those congested city centres. We're not anti-car, you need a car and rural transport, absolutely, but let's stop it where we can and bring an electric bus into the city
Because
centre.
that's one of the challenges, that with all this emphasis and excitement, I think the phrase you use is exciting. Excitement around electric vehicles, then we risk overlooking active travel.
I think, from my perspective, absolutely, and active travel is a key piece. And that's where public transport encourages elements of active travel, and we see that. London's a great example of a public transport system that encourages people to walk a bit, maybe cycle a bit, use the tube, use the bus. How do we replicate that elsewhere?
Yeah. Okay, points, questions from the floor before we move on? I know we're running rather late. You want to get some trains and stuff home. Are there any questions people want to raise? Okay, so...
The bus isn't going to go without you, by the way.
Okay, good.
For the bus.
Okay, that's a relief. And if it does, there's always an electric scooter to get home. Okay, so finally, just wrap up, I suppose. Rachel, you had a picture there of an elephant balancing. Is there a tipping point? Is there a tipping point that we need to get to before the kind of action that Billy and Romany talked about is actually going to start happening?
No, I don't think we need to wait for a tipping point. I think we're already there. I think we can already see some of the things we need to do. And I think if we're not careful, it becomes a very convenient excuse that we should wait for something else to happen. We're quite good at that, aren't we, when we're not quite sure. The other thing I hear an awful lot as I'm out and about talking about exactly these sorts of things is everybody wants to go second. Everybody wants to go second. You go first. I'm right behind you. Because some of these things take quite a bold step. But actually, it's interesting, because I think when you look at it at the level, I guess at this subnational level, I think actually maybe there's sort of a safety in numbers point that might be quite interesting. So no, I would absolutely say the time is now. Let's get some things going and trying them out and so on. They don't all have to be, roaring successes. We've got to learn and get on with it and adapt and keep going.
Ben, there is a fear that we've got to wait for technology to solve our problems for us.
If we wait for technology to solve our problems, we'll be fixing problems we didn't even know we had.
Great. I'm going to leave it right there, and I'm going to hand right back over to where we started today, which was with Rupert. Before that, thank you very much. Sorry to be in such a rush. Rachel, Ben, and Andy. Thank you very much to our panellists there. I will blame the government. I'll blame the government.